Now we're going to the World Championship Wrestling era of the U.S. title. What do you got?
Sting versus Rick Rude.
Sting.
Sting versus Dustin Rhodes.
The franchise. Sting.
Sting versus Steve Austin.
Sting.
Sting versus Ricky Steamboat.
Mom, Ricky Steamboat gets a second chance.
Ricky Steamboat versus Hacksaw Jim Duggan.
The Dragon all day.
The Dragon versus Vader.
I like Big Van Vader. I think he's a great talent, but Ricky Steamboat pulls it out in the end.
Ricky Steamboat versus Kinsei Sasaki.
Ricky Steamboat.
Ricky Steamboat versus One Man Gang.
Ricky.
Ricky Steamboat versus Conan.
Ricky Steamboat.
Ricky Steamboat versus Rick the Nature Boy Flair.
An all-time classic feud that the Dragon comes out on top of.
The Dragon versus Eddie Guerrero.
Eddie Guerrero overtakes Mom's all-time favorite wrestler as my favorite, as of right now, United States Champion.
Eddie Guerrero versus Dean Malenko.
Eddie.
Eddie versus Jeff Jarrett.
Eddie.
Eddie versus Steve Mongo McMichael.
R.I.P., but Guerrero on top.
Eddie versus Kurt Angle.
Mr. Perfect falls to Latino Heat.
Eddie Guerrero versus DDP.
Diamond Dallas Page was the U.S. division for quite some time.
DDP versus Raven.
Diamond Dallas Page.
DDP versus Goldberg.
DDP is much better than Bill Goldberg.
By far. DDP versus Brett.
Page.
DDP versus Lex Luger.
Page.
DDP versus Roddy Piper.
Page.
DDP versus Scott Hall.
DDP.
DDP versus Scott Steiner.
Page.
DDP versus David Flair.
Diamond Dallas.
DDP versus Chris Benoit.
Page.
DDP versus Sid Vicious.
Page.
DDP versus Lance Storm.
Page.
DDP versus The Funker.
Page.
DDP versus General Erection.
Diamond Dallas Page.
Diamond Dallas Page versus Shane Douglas.
Page.
DDP versus Rick Steiner.
Page.
DDP versus Booker T.
Booker T.
Booker T versus Canyon.
Booker.
Booker T versus Tajiri.
Booker T.
Booker T versus Rhino.
Booker T.
Booker T versus Kurt Angle.
It's WCW. It's Booker T.
Booker T versus Edge.
Booker T is the superior WCW United States Champion. I mean, there were a lot of great shouts throughout the video, but the real reason the video is going out and the reason this channel exists is because I, Oz, founded Gamble Comics. If you follow the link in the description of this or any other video, you can get books that I wrote. BC Brute, Everlasting Survivors.